Welcome to Fergie's Football Focus, now exclusively live on Twitch. The link is in the description.
Guys, the Premier League is currently stacked with a handful of great right backs, including Tomiyasu, Wan-Bissaka, Soufal, and Walker. However, there are two that stand out in my opinion, and that is Trent Alexander-Arnold and Reece James. The pair have been compared frequently throughout the early stages of their career, and thus far, I think it's fair to say, deemed Trent the more skillful. His output going forward is unlike any right back that we have ever seen before. I mean, Trent has recorded 52 assists and under 200 appearances with Liverpool, and the accuracy and timing of his crossing is exquisite. But despite all of Trent's statistical achievements in the past 12 months, I believe Reece James has started to eclipse him in terms of being a complete player or a complete right back. First off, James has proven to be a much more reliable defender. His positioning prevents Chelsea from getting caught out in transition. When the ball's lost up the field, James has the speed and stamina to recover into that compact shape that helps Chelsea compress play. And also, his 1v1 defending is phenomenal. He's got that speed and strength to muscle players off the ball. He's also a really strong tackler, and he does a great job of not diving in. So what Reece James will often do, he'll use his speed and pace to push you into, a player into a corner or a tight space, gradually close them in, and then uses his strength to then put in a strong tackle, muscle them off the ball. I think if we want to compare this with Trent defensively often gets caught in no man's land. I think, the game that really kind of exposes Trent's defensive weakness was that Real Madrid game last season, where he was often caught in no man's land. He isn't the strongest tackler. Positioning isn't quite as good. Obviously, Trent is elite going forward, but when we're talking about the right back position, the primary, the most important attribute is being a good defender. And that's why I value Reece James more right now. I would also like to say, previously you could say maybe Trent was levels and levels ahead of Reece James going forward. Well, Reece James has really started to develop his attacking output under Thomas Tuchel. And, we're talking being able to put in whip balls and early delivery similar to that of Trent. Improved finishing. He's had a really good shooting in and around the box this season. And his use of width. Really getting wide all the way on that touchline. And then, again, using his physical attributes, his speed, pace, to dominate. If we're looking at, statistics, that backs up, that this narrative that Reece James is improving. In 14 appearances in all competitions this season, we're saying 5 goals, 5 assists from Reece James. So for me, right now, the better right back is Reece James. I also want to add, Reece James is, 21, Trent's 23. Obviously not the biggest age difference, but at this early stage in their career, a season or two can make all the difference in terms of really establishing themselves. So I think we're starting to see Reece James establish himself in the way that Trent did maybe a season or two ago. And I think, why their comparison is always going to be so prevalent is because obviously they're two young right backs, both in the Premier League, both play for great sides, but also, they both play for England. So there's always going to be that competition there. And I think if you're talking about the right back that transfers best to numerous sides, it's Reece James. Again, because he's more well-rounded. Whereas Trent in Liverpool's system is great, is a really good player, best going forward. But when you need someone that's able to transfer between squads, between England and their club, I think Reece James is the better option. And if I was Gareth Southgate, going into big games in the future, I would feel much more comfortable with Reece James because he will take care of his defensive duties while also contributing greatly in the attack, right? It's not like a Aaron Wan-Bissaka situation where, he's very good 1v1 defender, but going forward is such a liability. Reece James is very good going forward, closing that gap on Trent, and defensively is superior. So for me, the best right back in the Premier League right now is Reece James. I just want to side note, Cancelo has not played as a right back this season, so I have him, slotted as a left back because obviously Kyle Walker has been playing on the right. João Cancelo is a phenomenal player. I just wanted to put that out there. I'm not disregarding him. I'm just considering him as a left back. But guys, down below in the comments, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Who you think is the best right back in the Premier League? For me, gotta be Reece James, especially with this current form.